My name is Clare Lewis. I'm 27 years old. People see my smile and think everything's fine, but what they don't know is how much that smile has been through. A while ago, I told my parents I was so excited and looking forward to my sister's wedding tomorrow. My mom just looked at me coldly and said, "It was last week." That's when I realized they hadn't even told me about it. They didn't want me there. It broke me, but I stayed silent. I built my own peace, my own life. And then, a month later, they came back, begging to stay in my beach house, and this time, I finally said no. Before I tell you the full story of what happened next, please like this video and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And don't forget to subscribe, because the truth behind this story will make you think twice about who deserves your forgiveness. I woke up that morning smiling for the first time in weeks. My little sister Bella was getting married tomorrow, and I couldn't wait to see her walk down the aisle. I had even bought a soft blue dress and matching shoes, something simple but elegant. I wanted to look nice, not flashy, just proud. As I sipped my coffee, I sent my mom a message. "I'm so excited for tomorrow. I can't wait to see everyone." I waited, expecting at least a heart emoji or a cheerful reply. But when my phone buzzed, I froze. Her message read only, "It was last week." For a second, I thought I read it wrong. I blinked and stared at the screen again. Last week? My heart started pounding. I quickly opened my calendar, checked the date, and scrolled through my messages. Nothing. No invitation, no call, not even a text. I searched my email, my junk folder, everything. There was nothing from my mom, my dad, or Bella. A strange silence filled the room. It was the same silence I used to feel as a teenager, the kind that told me I didn't belong. I called my mom right away, but she didn't answer. I tried again. Nothing. Then I called Bella. The call rang twice before going to voicemail. Her recorded voice chirped, "Hi, it's Bella, leave a message." And for some reason, hearing that made my eyes sting. I left no message. What could I even say? "Congratulations on the wedding you didn't invite me to?" I sat on my couch, staring out at the ocean through my window. The waves were calm, soft, moving like nothing in the world had gone wrong. But inside me, something cracked quietly. It wasn't just about missing the wedding. It was about being forgotten. Again. When I moved out 2 years ago, I thought space would fix things between me and my parents. I thought distance would make them realize how much I cared. But this was something else. You don't forget to invite your own daughter to a wedding. You choose not to. The rest of that day passed in a blur. Every time I picked up my phone, I hoped for a message explaining everything, a mistake, a mix-up, something. But nothing came. That night, I took the blue dress out of my closet and hung it by the window. It looked beautiful in the evening light. I had imagined wearing it while hugging Bella, maybe even laughing with my mom again. Now it just hung there. Useless, silent, and untouched. Before going to bed, I finally received a text from my father. It was short and strange. "Let's talk later, okay?" I didn't reply, because there was nothing left to say. The next morning, I woke up with that same heavy feeling in my chest, the one that comes when you realize something that hurt you yesterday wasn't a dream. The first thing I did was check my phone again. No new messages, no calls, just silence. I tried to distract myself, washed the dishes, cleaned the counter, opened the windows, but everything reminded me of them. My family, my mother's sharp tone, my father's quiet sighs, Bella's laughter that always seemed to echo a little louder when I wasn't around. I wish I could say I was surprised by what they did, but deep down, a small part of me wasn't. They'd been leaving me out of things my whole life, little things at first. When I was 10, Mom once told me not to sit in the family photo because my hair looked messy. At 15, she said I shouldn't come to Bella's dance recital because I'd only draw attention away. She said it with a laugh, but it didn't feel funny. Dad would always look away, pretending not to hear. By the time I turned 18, I had learned how to make myself smaller, quieter. When Bella talked, everyone listened. When I talked, they changed the subject. And when I finally left home at 22, Mom didn't hug me. She just said, "Make sure you don't come running back." I didn't. At first, moving out felt like freedom. I found a small apartment near the beach, started working as a freelance designer, and built a life that was quiet but peaceful. Every morning, I'd walk by the water, collecting seashells and sending pictures to Mom, just to remind her I was still there. Sometimes she replied with a thumbs up, sometimes nothing at all. Still, I kept hoping one day she'd change. So when Bella announced her engagement 6 months ago, I was genuinely happy. I called Mom right away, asking how the preparations were going. She sounded distracted, even distant. "Oh, Bella has everything handled," she said. I offered to help with decorations or invitations, but she said, "We'll manage." Now I understood what she really meant. As I sat on my balcony watching the ocean shimmer, I thought about how easily they erased me, like I was just an old photograph they didn't want on the wall anymore. That night, I opened Bella's social media page. Her wedding photos were there, dozens of them. She looked radiant in her white dress, our parents standing proudly beside her. There were friends, relatives, everyone smiling, everyone except me. I zoomed in on one photo where Mom was holding Bella's hand. Her smile looked proud, but I could tell it wasn't just pride. It was satisfaction. The kind that says, "This is perfect, just as I planned." I closed my phone slowly and whispered to myself, "You really didn't want me there, did you?" That night, I made a decision I should have made long ago. No more chasing them. No more waiting for love that only hurts to hold on to. Still, as I turned off the light, a small tear rolled down my cheek. Because even when you stop expecting love, the emptiness it leaves behind still aches. A week passed, but the ache inside me didn't fade. It lingered, quiet, heavy, and cold, like a bruise you keep pressing just to remind yourself it's still there. I hadn't spoken to anyone since that morning I found out about the wedding. My phone stayed silent. Not a word from Mom, Dad, or Bella. It was like I'd been erased from the family. Then one afternoon, while I was making tea, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mom. "Stop acting like a victim. We had our reasons." I just stared at it. No apology, no explanation, just blame. I typed a reply. "What reasons?" But I never sent it, because I already knew how the conversation would go. She'd twist it, make it about how I was too sensitive, how I misunderstood everything. I had played that game too many times before. I put the phone face down on the counter and stepped outside to breathe. The sea was calm that day, the air warm, the sky soft and open. It always amazed me how peaceful the world could look while you felt like falling apart inside. That night, as I sat on the porch, I got another message, this time from Dad. "Your mom feels bad. Maybe you could come over for dinner sometime." Dinner? After all that? It almost made me laugh. Instead, I wrote back, "I don't think that's a good idea right now." I didn't say more. I didn't explain myself. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for saying no. The following days were quiet again, but the silence felt different. It wasn't loneliness, it was peace. I started going for long walks by the shore, working on my projects, and even picked up a small painting hobby. But then one evening, as I scrolled through my phone, I saw Bella's new post, her honeymoon photos, smiling on a boat, her husband holding her close. Underneath, Mom had commented, "So proud of you, sweetheart. You deserve all the happiness in the world." And I don't know why, but that comment made my stomach twist. Not because of jealousy, but because of what it meant, that their world truly didn't have a place for me anymore. 2 days later, as if the universe was testing me, I received a call from Mom. When I saw her name on the screen, my heart skipped. I let it ring twice before answering. Her voice was cold. "Clara, I hope you're not holding a grudge. It was Bella's day. We didn't want any tension." I was silent for a long time. Then I said softly, "You didn't even give me a chance to cause tension." She scoffed. You always twist things. You think everything's about you. That was the moment I decided I was done trying. I think we should stop talking for a while, I said calmly. Her voice cracked slightly, almost offended. Fine, if that's what you want. And then she hung up. For the first time in my life, I didn't cry after one of her calls. I just sat there, listening to the waves crash in the distance, realizing something simple and painful. I had finally stopped hoping she would ever be different. A week later, I thought the silence between us was permanent. But 1 month after that call, I heard a knock at my door. When I opened it, I froze. Standing there were my parents, looking nothing like the people I remembered. When I opened the door, I almost didn't recognize them. Mom's hair, usually perfectly brushed, was a mess. Dad looked smaller somehow, his shoulders slouched, his eyes tired. For a second, I just stared. Clara, Mom said softly. Her voice didn't have that sharp tone I was used to. Can we come in? I stepped aside, unsure what else to do. They walked into my home slowly, like people who had been walking for a long time with no place to rest. The air felt heavy. I could smell the ocean breeze mixed with something unfamiliar, maybe their exhaustion. Dad sat on the couch. Mom stood near the window, her hands clasped tightly together. What's going on? I finally asked. My voice came out calmer than I expected. Mom hesitated, then took a deep breath. It's Bella, she said. Her husband. Things didn't go as planned. I stayed quiet, letting her continue. They invested money in some business, something with a partner of his. It went bad. He lost everything. The bank took the house. Bella's been crying for days. I felt a dull ache in my chest, not from sympathy, but from confusion. So why are you here? Mom's eyes flickered toward me, and for a brief moment, I saw something I had never seen before. Fear. Our home. It's under review by the bank, too. We might lose it. We need somewhere to stay for a while, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I looked at her, then at Dad. He wouldn't meet my eyes. You want to stay here? I asked slowly. Dad nodded. Just until we figure things out. We didn't know where else to go. For a few seconds, none of us said anything. The waves outside crashed softly, as if the sea itself was waiting for my answer. I remembered every moment, every time I was told I wasn't enough, every look of disappointment, every birthday they forgot. And yet, seeing them standing there now, broken and small, I couldn't help but feel something deep inside me stir. Not anger, not pity, but something quieter. Mom's eyes filled with tears. I know things haven't been perfect, she said, her voice shaking. But we're still your parents. Please, Clara. Just for a little while. It was strange hearing her beg. The woman who once told me not to come home without a plan, now standing in my home asking for shelter. I sat down on the edge of the couch, my heart pounding. Dad finally spoke, his voice low. We made mistakes, he said. I made mistakes. I should have spoken up more. I wanted to believe him, but the words felt heavy, like they'd arrived too late. Mom tried to smile. You've done well for yourself. This place, it's beautiful. Her voice cracked at the end, and that tiny sound broke something in me. Because for all the times I had dreamed of hearing her say those words, you've done well, now that she finally did, they meant nothing. I looked around my home, the soft cream curtains, the little seashells on the shelf, the scent of peace that I had built for myself. Then I looked back at them, the people who had taught me how to live without love. And for the first time, I realized how strong I had become without even noticing. I took a deep breath. Let me think, I said quietly. I need some time. Mom nodded, wiping her eyes. Of course. We'll wait outside. As they stepped out onto the porch, I closed the door gently behind them. My hands were trembling, but my heart was steady, because I already knew what my answer would be. I stood in the middle of my living room for a long time after they stepped outside. The sound of the sea drifted through the open window, slow and steady, the same rhythm that had kept me company during all the years I'd spent alone. I looked around my house, every piece of it built from the quiet life I made after they left me behind. The paintings on the wall, the books stacked near the couch, the faint scent of lavender from the candles I lit each night, all of it was mine. Every inch of this space was a reminder of peace I had to fight for. And now, the same people who once pushed me away wanted to share it. I walked to the door and saw them sitting on the porch steps. Dad was staring at the sand, his hands clasped tightly together. Mom was quiet, her face pale, her eyes distant. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. I opened the door slowly. They both looked up. "Clara," Mom said softly, her voice breaking. "Please, just for a few weeks. We'll help with anything you need." I stepped outside and leaned against the doorframe. The cool air brushed my face, and I could feel my heart thudding quietly inside me. "Do you remember," I said, "when I called you the morning I thought Bella's wedding was tomorrow?" Mom's lips pressed together. She said nothing. "You told me it was last week. You didn't even tell me she was getting married." Her eyes darted away. "We didn't want drama." "Drama?" I interrupted gently. "You mean me." She looked at me, and for the first time, she didn't argue. She just looked tired. Dad tried to speak. "We were wrong, Clara. We handled things badly." I nodded slowly. "Yes, you did." The silence between us was sharp but strangely calm. Then I said the words I'd been holding back, words that didn't come from anger, but from peace. "A month ago, I wasn't welcome at my sister's wedding. Today, you're not welcome in my home." Mom's eyes widened. For a second, she looked like she didn't understand, like her mind couldn't process that I was finally saying no. Dad opened his mouth to speak, but I shook my head gently. "I'm not doing this to hurt you," I said quietly. "I'm doing this to protect the peace I fought so hard for. I forgave you a long time ago, but forgiveness doesn't mean I have to let you in again." Mom stood up, her hands trembling. "Clara, please." But I didn't let her finish. I took a small step back and said softly, "I hope you find a place where you can rest. Just not here." Then I turned and walked inside. I closed the door slowly, not slamming it, not in anger, just gently, like ending a chapter that had dragged on too long. For a moment, I stood there with my hand on the knob, breathing. Then I walked to the window and looked out at the ocean. The waves shimmered under the evening sun, golden and endless. That's when I realized something simple but powerful. I wasn't the forgotten daughter anymore. I was the woman who finally learned that peace is worth saying no for. And as the last light faded across the water, I whispered to myself, "I'm finally free."